I've started recording. I oh god. It has been what? As of this recording, it's been 19 episodes. And I still haven't had a proper way of introducing the whole fucking thing.
Damn.
How do professionals do this like every single day? Like I bet when given like a catchphrase or something, then it probably makes more sense to just repeat that every single time. But like for us, it's so different because we don't have like.
Tell everybody what you did this morning. Like, just say your morning routine.
All right, hi, all 20 people who watch our podcasts. I didn't eat breakfast this morning. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the InkGuild Podcast. My name is Dean, joined today by Gabe.
Hey.
And we've got two new voices to hear from today. So we've got Georgia.
Yo.
And Madi. Madi, this is where you say hi.
Did it not go through? Oh. I said, hey.
Well, there's your introduction. All right, so for those who are familiar with the credits, you'll know that Georgia has been a huge help in creating our logo, which is the InkGuild with the with the pen or with the feather pen and the candle. Like, I didn't ask her to do it, and I'm still thankful for her doing it. It looks amazing. Thank you so much, dude. And
Thank you.
yeah, but she's never spoken on an episode before, and I think I'll get into that in a second, but like same thing with Maddie. She's been around on our Discord server for a while, but she has only recently wanted to take part in the projects, which I personally really enjoy. Like, the more people are comfortable speaking on this, the better, because I think Alex brought up a good point a while ago. It can't always just be Gabe, Alex, and I talking on a subject. So yeah, it's always nice hearing from more people. So on that, I wanted to talk quickly about your guys's writing origins really quick before we get into the main topic of tonight. So yeah, let's do that. So Georgia, how long have you been writing for?
So I got into writing, I'm not gonna lie, I was, 7. So that's like the point in your childhood when you start writing full sentences, and then you can create stories in your head, and you're like, oh, I gotta get this down on paper. So I just remember being in grade 2, and teacher would say, okay, you have to write a story. And I just really took off with it. And I started writing stories about like these little rodents who were personified. And I thought it was just the greatest thing ever. And I went to hand in the story thinking that I would get it back so I could write like a whole chapter book. And I never got that story back. And I still think about that.
Oh no.
So, yeah, ever since then, in terms of university, I started taking the preliminary creative writing class in second year, and it's just sort of one of those things where it's an art form, right? So
yeah.
When the conditions are right and you have an idea, and you have your talent, and you put your pen to paper, and you just let yourself go. And I've gotten into it really in the last little while. After we had our creative writing class this year, I sort of took it upon myself to get into novel writing. I mean, it's a big leap
Ooh.
because
That is a pretty big jump, actually.
Yeah, like you and I were talking about it, Dean. I just sort of wanted to, summer was pretty free flowing, if
Mhm.
you will. So I thought, oh, I got this really good idea. And so, I mean, I have the skeleton of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't worked on it since the summer, but, it's a process.
Yeah. Well, personally, like I do remember that conversation. It's great to hear that, like, it's great to hear you mention it because it seems that there was so much that happened in that one class for everyone. Like for me, like
Totally.
for me personally, and like, you guys have already heard how much the class means to me, right? Like I was just some guy that had friends in the class and then joined. But it's so nice hearing everyone else's. And on that, actually, Maddie, how did you, I guess before we get to that, actually, what are your writing origins and how did you come to get into that class?
Me?
Yeah.
I well, kind of same as Georgia. I started writing, I would say around 7, and I remember having my babysitters when they were over, I would like sit them down at the computer screen and force them to write while I just like spoke the words. So that's kind of how it got started. And then
You had human
it's kind of,
typewriters.
yeah, literally. And not my finest moment for sure. Bossy 7-year-old. Um, but yeah, and then it just kind of went into journaling a lot, just writing whenever I felt an emotion, I would just kind of poetically write about it. And it wasn't until my second year of university, in Micheline's creative writing class, actually, that I was starting to consider writing as like a serious activity. And I would definitely say that was because I was surrounded by people who are talented writers and who had the same goals and passions as myself. And I no longer felt like writing was kind of an embarrassing activity or like for the super sensitive or something. I just felt like it was something that if you're talented at, you should go ahead and pursue.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that was kind of how the ball started rolling.
So then, yeah, I guess at some point, like, as the origin story goes, like all three of you had joined, had wanted to pursue like your passions a little bit more with the class. And little did you know that I was there around the corner just waiting. But
Working.
yeah, like,
Well, it's like I said to you yesterday, Dean. When you showed up at the end of the semester and I walked in and I was like, am I crazy or is this guy just like he's not a part of the class? Like,
yeah, Taylor
and
said the same
it's
thing
good
to me
that
too,
you're there.
actually. Yeah, like our mutual friend Taylor, like she had said the same thing when we first started talking. She was like, "Yo, I didn't realize, like, did you just skip out like the whole like first half of the semester or something? Like, where the fuck were you or something?"
Yeah.
And then I explained that, like, yeah, origin story and whatever. And I'm like naturally surprised just how well I got along with a lot of you.
Mm-hmm.
Considering I had only just met some of you like on that day, and even a few of you in that first in those first few Zoom calls, like, yeah, I clicked with you. Like, I clicked with all of you either on the spot or over time. And I think Maddie, it goes back to what you said on how like we all have our own we all have a vested interest in being better writers, right? Like whether it's
Mm-hmm.
wanting to make it a full-time career or just simply wanting to get better at the craft. Like there's always like there was something there that like connected all of us, right?
Yeah, it was really refreshing. I know for myself, I hadn't made tons of friends in university, mostly just because I was bouncing back and forth between what I wanted to major in. But that creative writing class actually kind of sparked friendships for me outside of the classroom, which kind of made me feel like I was in a movie. And it was a really great experience. And I'm
Yeah,
really happy it happened.
yeah, I said this to you yesterday, but like I don't know, Gabe, Georgia, if you guys want to agree with me, but you could not write a better origin story than how this whole thing started.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think maybe, obviously, but like as just an expression, I personally could not write the origin story of a friendship like this in any sense.
Well, when I actually first joined the Discord, I said to my mom, I was in the kitchen and I said, I think these people have been friends for like a long time. Because the way you guys were interacting with each other, I just thought you had all like gone to high school together or something. I wasn't aware that you didn't even know half the people that are now in this little Discord community until that class.
Well, the thing is, like, Gabe and Georgia actually, like, it's funny you bring up, like, you know, knowing each other from high school, because Gabe and Georgia went to the same high school.
I'm like, no, what a coincidence here.
Yeah. We're just predicting so many things that come to life. I'm going to make a prediction right now. I want $10,000.
Yeah.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, but yeah, it's seriously so nice to have like this community. And you know, all of that, like, I don't want to gush too much because we do have a topic to talk about, but like, actually, you know what? That's a perfect segue. So as much as I love talking about this community, there are certain things when it comes to literary device, like when it comes to, you know, storytelling, that sometimes we don't always like showing appreciation for. There's always a lot of like things low key that we're all like, I don't want to talk about this openly because people are gonna think I'm weird, but you secretly enjoy it, and those things is what we're going to talk about today. So tonight we're going to be talking about storytelling guilty pleasures, and for such a broad topic, we're deciding. So I'm going to lay down a few ground rules. So basically, we're each going to be, because there are 4 of us, we're each going to be talking about only 2 so far, and we'll get our honorable mentions out of the way first. But in speaking order, it'll be me, then Gabe, then Georgia, then Madi, and then we'll repeat. And basically what we're talking about is really any kind of like trope, cliche, character archetype or something that is so common and almost kind of annoying in a way, but deep down we really kind of enjoy it. Like, as much as you know, as much as we can find fault in it, we secretly still like watching it on, like, in anime, movies, TV shows, video games, whatever. So yeah, let's get honorable. How did I do with that transition, guys?
Good.
Not bad.
Yeah, okay, sweet. I was so self-conscious because I'm like, man, this is so cheesy, but anyway. Yeah, let's get the honorable mentions out of the way first. And my first honorable mention is the tsundere trope, from most commonly found in anime. And Gabe, I'm fairly sure you know what I'm talking about. Tsunderes,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, tsunderes is a character trope in anime that is basically a very crazy, obsessive girl. That is typically like, who has like a very secret crush on the love interest, or on the male love interest, and it's so annoying, and it's so it can be downright cringy, but like I love it. It's so funny because this, like, the situations that they come up with are so it's so written into anime that you can't really associate it without it. Like, especially romantic anime, obviously, like, there's the whole, like, you know, the tsundere is hitting the male love interest because, like, you know, she's vulnerable or something. Like, it's so ingrained into that culture that I can't really see anime without it. Like, in any sense, like, romantic anime, action anime, there's always a tsundere. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe, what would your first honorable mention be?
My first honorable mention is a classic trope, Chekhov's gun. I love that shit.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
people make fun of it because they're like, oh, I wonder if that's gonna come back later. But every time I see like someone say like, oh yeah, this is my super big space laser penis blasts, and I'm like, yes, that's gonna come back later, and it's gonna be great. And then it does, and I'm a happy boy.
Yeah. All right, Georgia, your first honorable mention.
Okay, I don't know if there's a specific name for it, but I would say, in like a romance type story, or like a, teenagehood type story where it's like you fall in love with the best friend at the end of the story, like, oh,
The
I was in love with
perfect.
this person the whole time.
Yeah, I think
Like
there's a name for it
Futurama.
too, but like I think it's like the perfect rom-com ending.
Yeah, it's like, oh, never expected it to be you, but it was secretly you the whole time.
I love that so much. It's so
Missing the sun for the I don't know what it's called. Missing the something for the something else.
yeah. They always come up with like the cheesiest shit
Yeah,
when
but
they
I
try
like
to like
it.
yeah, I know. Like when in that eventual justification it's like, "Oh, it's always been you." Like I love the cheesy shit that they have to write to make it unique. Oh my god. It's always a stretch, but I love listening to it every single time. All right.
Totally.
Maddie, what about you?
My honorable mention is the bad guy wears black. And I'm not talking about the villain. I mean like the bad guy love interest. He's like always in super dark colors, and he's like leaning against the wall, and he's just smoldering with his eyes. It's horrible. It's just never well done, but
Yeah.
I just love it. I live for it.
Yeah. Grease really set a precedent with that.
Oh,
Basically.
I know. And there's usually a motorbike involved, and
yeah, it's basically Grease.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm like
man.
Grease.
Yeah. You could just say all of Grease is a guilty pleasure and I would have completely understand.
Or like Damon from the Vampire Diaries is another one.
Yeah.
That's like a perfect example.
That is a perfect example, yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have a second round of picks, but I'm going to quickly go over my second honorable mention, and that is the "Here Comes the Cavalry" trope, which is, I know that's a big name for it, but basically it's just like in a action movie specifically, like it's like, you have a single hero and a whole bunch of bad guys, but then suddenly you pan the camera or like you build suspense and then suddenly, oh shit, there's a whole army behind them or something. And I'm like, dude, it's so familiar. I can't ever be surprised by it anymore, but I fucking love it every single time. Like, what is
Isn't
it?
there one in Mulan?
Hmm?
Isn't there one in Mulan? Like a scene like that?
There should be one in like almost every single high budget action movie. Like Avengers Endgame had the portal scene, obviously. I think Lord of the Rings has had plenty of "Here Comes the Cavalry" moments. What is it? Star Wars had plenty of "Here Comes the Cavalry" moments with like, a bunch of like the rebellion or the resistance air force, or like, there's so many and I love it so much. I can't ever get sick of it because it's just like everywhere. I always love seeing like, oh shit, there's so many people here to help, like thing, and it just makes the story so predictable in the end, but like, god, I love it. All right, Gabe, do you have a second pick or?
Yeah, my second pick is it's called on TV tropes. It's listed as the berserk button, which I guess is essentially it's a term for if a character who is normally a very chill, rational, a nice, they're a nice enough guy, a normal enough guy, but then sometimes they just go a little ape shit.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so this would be your Edward Elrics, for example, just a normal guy, but then he just goes a little ape shit. It's great. I love that shit.
Yeah, people call it like flipping the switch or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Georgia, do you have a second honorable mention or?
Okay, it's kind of hard to explain, but you've definitely seen it. So it's when the one character is unprepared and they have to do something, and their friend is like, "Oh, I can help you out," And so say it's like a date or something, and so the person who's helping out is like under the table or in the background with a voice recorder telling them what to say, and then the main character is like screwing it up because the person that they're listening to on the other end is like being stung by a wasp or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The convenient best friend.
You see it in
Like if someone,
time.
I'm trying to think of like an example. Like if someone's like if they get stung by a wasp and they say, "Ah, fuck off," and then like on the date, like the guy's like, "Fuck off," and his date is like, "What? What are you?
Yeah.
What?"
Yeah.
Like- misperception, like Austin Powers type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Maddie.
I think the other one would be kind of the teenage love, not the best friends, but you fall in love with your teenage first big heartbreak, and years later, like 15, 20 years later, you realize they were the one, and you like go on
Oh
this
my
mission to find them.
god. Yeah,
And
fuck that.
I'm actually reading right now The Book of Two Ways by Jodi Picoult. It's a classic example if you guys ever want to check it out.
Oh my god, I love that. I love / hate that trope so much. Oh my god.
It's so good. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, I wish that would happen to me.
It
But
makes
at the same time, you don't. You
Yeah.
just don't wish it happens.
it makes me like kind of like delighted, I think, to think that like one person that I knew in like high school or something, it's like, oh, I've known them for so long, it's meant to be. And then suddenly 15, 20 years later, after realizing they were the one, I sit here like, fuck, I really have to hold on to those to those annoying feelings for so long.
Yeah.
I have to watch them fuck other people.
You don't have to watch it.
You
Oh,
just
yeah,
have to acknowledge
obviously.
it's happening.
Oh, okay. Well, before we get into that kind of tangent, which I really don't want to get into right now because that sets me up for failure. Let's actually get into our picks, like our formal picks. And my first one is the powerful artifacts trope, or at least the powerful MacGuffin, basically. And you see, so when I say powerful artifact, I mean powerful weapons, powerful tools, very convenient things that help move the plot along, basically. And that's been so common across like everything. Like you'll see a powerful artifact in almost every single fantasy story where the party is going after this one weapon that will end the war or something, and you will, and it's the source of everyone's interest, basically. Like you're all fighting to get this thing. And like, while the MacGuffin itself is not actually my guilty pleasure, because I have my own opinions on that, but yeah, I love the notion of powerful artifacts. And I'll actually talk about powerful weapons for a minute, because powerful weapons always pique my interest because they always just look so fucking cool. Or at least
like Sword of Gryffindor.
Yeah, basically. So like you have the Elder Wand from Harry Potter. That looks really cool, and it's supposed to be a powerful weapon. Or at least you have the 3 Deathly Hallows in general. Those are like very powerful artifacts or powerful weapons that that a good majority of the story is focused on. Like there's so much lore behind it, and there's a lot of ramifications that come with using them, and I loved learning about it. In the Throne of Glass series, which is unfortunate that Alex is not a part of tonight, but I love Goldrin, which is Aelin's sword. It's, I'm probably confusing it, but like Goldrin has been like a family heirloom, so like there's a lot of sentimental value behind it, and it's a very powerful weapon when Aelin is using it. I guess other things too, like powerful weapons really do, or like the reason why I say it's a guilty pleasure is because powerful weapons, especially when they're very overpowered, like is a very understandable trope to hate, because then it's just like writing in magic. You can basically like write yourself out of any situation, right? But at the same time, like my sole exception for powerful weapons is because I don't know. I think just design wise, it looks amazing. Like the people that have utilized or that have put time into designing this badass sword or gun or something, like it just gets me. It's even like you can even attribute powerful weapons to some of the most famous characters in existence, right? Like for Star Wars, for example, you have Chewie's crossbow, I guess. Like that shit don't miss. And it's good. It fucking works. It kills everyone in its way. There's obviously and going on Star Wars, right? Like they're the lightsabers that are like very powerful weapons and are so tied to that franchise. Going into Lord of the Rings, you have Sting, you have Gandalf's staff, you have what is it? You have the One Ring, obviously, that dictates so much possibility in terms of either destroying the world or saving it, and it hooks me in almost every single time. Like I am a sucker whenever a powerful weapon is in use, because then it just changes the entire dynamic of the story for like a second, because then I don't know, I guess it just puts me in the headspace that whoever's using it could end the world right then and there, or maybe save the world right then and there. And it's that kind of bout where it's like, do they do it though? Obviously I know they won't because plot and shit, but like it's fascinating to me. I love I love talking about like overpowered and like powerful weapons in general, and powerful artifacts too. What's another one? There was one that was like stuck in my head for a long time, but I think so I'm going to be talking video games for a second, but in God of War 2018 you have the Leviathan axe, which is Kratos' main weapon. It is a badass fucking thing. Oh my god. Like it is so versatile and so powerful, and I can't see the main character without it anymore. Like it's so synonymous with the brand now as the Blades of Chaos were back then, that it just helps the franchise. Like you can take the characters out of it. If you were to just show me the axe, I'd say God of War. So yeah, I love powerful weapons.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I've always been like a fantasy person, and through fantasy, obviously, you had like a bunch of like really, well, not just like fantasy, but like, anime and a lot of imaginative storytelling, basically. So like you always had like very cool looking weapons, and when they're given like god ending abilities or or very sentimental things, like again, like most people would probably think, man, this is just a way to write your character out of any situation, basically. But shit, do I enjoy it so much. Like I really do. Do you guys have any kind of like signature weapon that comes to mind when you think of like a franchise or something?
Probably there's a couple. Probably Yamato from Devil May Cry. That definitely comes to mind. Virgil's classic beaut of a sword.
Georgia, how about you?
In terms of weapons?
Well, like weapons,
not
artifacts,
weapons
tools, whatever.
specifically.
Yeah.
Well, okay, like things that were made and they're dangerous. I think I'm kind of a cars person a little bit. Yeah, in terms of things that are manufactured or like props, probably cars or
Cars are the most valuable weapon in a movie because they never they're all almost essentially bulletproof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
That
and tornado proof.
That annoys me. that aspect
Stay tuned
of
for the next episode of Man versus Car.
like in that regard, that annoys me. But like, if you're gonna wipe out like thousands of enemies with just the swipe of your sword, I'm down for it.
I think if there's like any ancient like artifact weapon that immediately comes to mind, I don't know why I didn't think of this, but like Excalibur in all of its many forms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's always, especially Dean. Have you ever watched Fate Stay Night or Fate Zero?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, Saber's version of Excalibur. That's a beaut for me.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's move on then to Gabe's first official pick then. So what would be your first storytelling guilty pleasure?
I gotta tell you, Dean, when you were leading up to what your first guilty pleasure was, I was like clenching my ass cheeks, hoping that you didn't say this so that I could talk about it. So anyone who's listened to this podcast before or has met me knows that I am a big fan of shonen anime. And in shonen anime, there's one trope that is in all of them, and it's amazing every time, and that's tournament arcs.
Oh my god!
Tournament arcs.
Yo!
Tournament arcs are the best fucking thing that has ever happened in fiction. I will scream every time a new shonen anime is coming out, because I know that at some point there's gonna be a fucking tournament arc, and there always is, and it's always amazing. For those listening who are unaware of what a tournament arc is, all right, so shonen,
let me in.
Okay, so tournament arcs are essentially a fucking breakdown of all narrative walls where the writers just go like, hey, we've created a series where the premise is that people are watching it to watch these crazy superpowered characters get into fights. So what if we axed away all narrative pretense and just said, hey, these characters are going to fight in a fucking tournament, just episode after episode of just fighting in these crazy,
I'll be right back, guys,
free-for-all battles. Oh, should I not stop screaming, or should I keep screaming while you're gone? I'll keep screaming.
Keep going. I'm enjoying it.
Okay, so what you have with tournament arcs is this beautiful cohesion of destroying rules and also this weird narrative beauty where you have all your characters who you've grown to be familiar with. That's the thing with shonen. It is that they have this huge ensemble cast of characters. You have basically every single trope you can imagine of a character. That's a single character in this series, and they got all of them, and they put all of them together. They say put all of them in a big stadium. We'll put a big bracket, and then we'll just have 16 or 24 or 30 episodes straight of just these characters fighting each other one after another. It's great. You can have all sorts of shit happening. You can have all sorts of dynamics happening. You can have characters fighting their own love interests. You can have rivals who get to finally compete one-on-one after like vaguely smirking at each other and vaguely trying to one-up each other. Now they can just duke it out with each other. You can have villain characters who have been like lurking in the shadows just enter this tournament because they want to win, and they can step in. It's like a low stakes battle with a villain early on. Or you can have new characters who show up and you've never seen them before, but they have a whole other interesting motivation for wanting to win the tournament, and the hero has to fight them, and it's fucking great every time. The best example is My Hero Academia. I will die on that hill.
Yeah.
I know Dragon Ball fans will murder me for saying that, but the best example is My Hero Academia. When that shit had a tournament arc, that shit was so fucking good.
Did you take a breath at all?
I took a breath when you left to ask if I could keep screaming, but then I just kept going.
Oh, okay.
Listen.
So wait, are they aware that it's like a tournament? Like they're aware that they're fighting.
Oh yeah, usually
Okay.
in the story, there's a literal stadium and a literal like announcer and a literal bracket that will show up on the.
And this is just like happens all the time in anime.
Oh yeah. It happens constantly. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. They'll literally have the brackets show up on the screen like after each fight to show who's fucking going ahead. It's amazing.
It's so sweet. It's more prominent in shonen anime than anything, but like
it does show up in some other animes, but it's most typical for shonen anime because shonen animes got those big ensemble casts and they got that like crazy fight scene budget. That's the other best part because animes have like wonky budgeting issues, but whenever a season's got a tournament arc in it, they dump all their fucking budget into that tournament arc, and it's glorious. I've seen so many tournament arc fight scenes just be taken out and used as like music video background.
Oh my god, yeah, don't even bring in AMVs. I could talk about that shit for so long. That is my guilty that is my guilty boner.
There's this one that I'm watching right now called Hunter x Hunter, and there's this one fight between the hero and the main sort of villain. I don't want to call Hisoka the villain, and that's been taken and used as like the background in so many fucking rap AMVs. It's actually absurd. Like when the first time I actually watched it and I found out that scene doesn't have any music in the background, my mind was fucking blown because I was just so attuned to hearing like someone rapping to that fight.
Yeah, like tournament arcs are basically like, I know it's a weird comparison, but like investing in a tournament arc is like investing in professional wrestling because there's so much hammy drama that they're
garbage. Yeah, but, like I love them so much.
Yeah. Oh my god. It's a chef's kiss.
Tournament arc has ever actually furthered the plot. Every tournament arc, like the underlying reason every tournament arc in anime exists is because usually the animators or the original manga writers were like, okay, I want to fill some space between this plot point and this plot point so that we can have some more development on these characters. So I'm just gonna chuck them in a stadium for a couple of chapters or a couple episodes and let them stew for a bit before the plot can continue. That's nothing plot happens. It's like it's narrative gunk.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Yeah,
I love it so much.
There's so many
so good.
Yeah, there are so many like anime tropes that I could have easily just fit a whole I could have easily hosted a whole episode just talking about my favorite like anime guilty pleasures, like one of them being a beach scene, which
oh my god.
Yeah, the beach scene is one tsundere, as I had mentioned, or I had done as an honorable mention, but yeah, oh man,
there's a bunch of anime tropes that I really like, but I don't know. To me, none of them hold such a close, tight, beautiful point in my heart as tournament arcs. The second closest I will talk about later, but this is the one where I'm just like every time I see it, I am in heaven. I will watch all 20 episodes of these characters not furthering the plot, just punching each other, and I will love every second of it.
All right, while you sit there
and recover.
recover. I'll pass it off to Georgia. So Georgia, what would your first pick be?
Okay, so maybe to relate it a little bit to your guys' favorite guilty pleasures. I would say it's like the bad boy trope. Maddie, you said that one of your favorite tropes was like the guy wearing black with the smoldering eyes.
Yeah.
And it's you kind of okay, so the movie I'm thinking of is called The Heathers. And so
oh my god, I love The Heathers.
Oh, I'm glad you've seen it. Oh, it's good. So the bad boy, you kind of feel bad for him. He's kind of this weird freak, and you're like, oh, he's harmless. What could go wrong? And then he turns out to be like the school shooter.
Oh god. Oh god. Okay, that's a whole curve.
So it's like Winona Ryder, and Christian Slater just have a battle it out, like they're hitting each other with fire extinguishers, and she's just, they're just beating each other up, like, and it's kind of unexpected for a movie like that because it's kind of like this sort of 16 Candles era type movie where you're just kind of not expecting like a sort of this like battle to go on between them. But there's a lot of blood in that movie. There's a lot of manhandling as well. There's a lot of gun shooting, and it's a great movie just because of the character that Christian Slater plays. Just this like weird freak that you kind of feel sorry for, and he's like, yeah, he doesn't turn out how he's expected to be, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess in a way, like a bad boy character.
Yeah.
Would that
basically.
be that? Yeah, that basically be.
But
it.
he's not a bad boy the whole time,
Yeah. Fair. Yeah, I'm saying like on that discussion actually. Yeah, I've both had an appreciation and a very honest distaste for bad boys lately. I think especially in storytelling, because it could either go one of two ways. It's either you got the bad boy that is very, very like charming with I guess he's very suave, I guess. Like he's got a lot of charisma. He's very he's charming but still kind of a dick in the sarcastic way. And I guess there's the other kind of bad boy where they're just a straight up asshole, and I don't understand why characters are appreciating him that much. Like right. I'm down. Like I am.
That's what you're saying. It's like kind of a cliche.
Yeah, like I am 100% down for like the suave, sarcastic dickhead as a thing, as a guilty pleasure. But like I can't fuck with like. I can't fuck with straight I can't fuck with just honest dicks at this point. Like there's just nothing there, dude. You're just gonna be an asshole to everybody. It's like it kind of connects to what my trope will be, like with what my other guilty pleasure will be eventually. But yeah, I can't deal with like, you're just being a dick because you're misunderstood or something. Like no, have some kind of charisma. Do we have like any notable bad boys that we do kind of have an affinity for?
Like, you mean nothing they can do is ever wrong?
I guess I was just gonna say, or I was just meant it more simply, just like, is there a bad boy character that we all kind of enjoy individually?
I'm probably gonna get some flack for this because I know like he basically joins Ninja ISIS, but Sasuke from Naruto.
Yeah, you are gonna get flamed for it. Fuck, how dare you?
I don't know. I love him. He's great. I can't help it.
Georgia, how about you? Do you have another notable like bad boy character that you kind of like, or that you have some kind of affinity for?
Well, like who I like universally, Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger. No.
That's true. Yeah, he started off as like
he was a very bad boy in the first movie. I was about to say, would we qualify Zuko as like the sort of bad boy?
Zuko was gonna be mine. He was definitely gonna be my like.
I don't even know if we could like qualify Zuko as a bad boy. He's just kind of edgy.
Sure, yeah, edgy boys.
He's a sad boy, not a bad boy.
That's a whole other guilty pleasure. The
all
sad
right.
boy.
There's a very fine line.
Okay, let's reel it back in before we start gushing about Avatar again, because I know that that's an inevitability. But anyway, Maddie, what would your first trope be?
I'm gonna go with geek-to-sheek, and I specifically in my mind when I say that,
Still
you guys are
waiting
gonna
for
laugh.
that to happen to me.
Yeah, me too. I'm thinking of what not to wear, and I know that's just a TV series, but Stacey London, she's my idol. I just love her. And when all of their clients go through that makeup scene where they go in and their hair kind of sucks and they don't wear makeup and they have glasses, and then they bring them out like after the commercial break and they have like this brand new face of makeup and like glowing hair and hot outfit. I'm like, I could watch only that on repeat and feel so content in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And an actual movie too is The Duff is a really popular one where it's kind of like, or not The Duff, sorry, no, I'm thinking of a different one. Shoot. But it happens so much. Like it's such a classic where it's always they take the glasses off and shake their hair out and now they're like this chic hot girl and he's like, I always knew you were beautiful.
Yeah. Oh man, you're so right though, because I can associate that one trope specifically to 80s, 90s movies, or like I think Disney movies specifically, like early 2000s Disney movies, because they're the same thing.
Oh
yeah. And like
seriously, yeah.
You always have that one dorky character that like from the very beginning they're like, oh hey, they kind of suck.
Yeah,
they kind of suck in real life.
Protagonist?
Yeah, it's like they think like, face full of acne, glasses, like store-bought clothes and shit, and like store-bought, like, thrifted clothes or like hand-me-down clothes or something. And I can't exactly pinpoint to a single movie, but like, yeah, eventually by the end of the movie, especially when there's a love interest introduced, it's like suddenly there's that. I can't remember for the life of me which specific movie it is, but like there's always that one scene like where they're all going to the prom or something. The best friend is waiting downstairs, and then typically the girl is like upstairs, and then there's that whole thing where it's like the girl is walking down the stairs as the camera's following them, and suddenly they're like stunning.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead, Gabe.
I'm dying over here. Because you said you couldn't think of a specific movie. I could think of a very specific movie, and it's killing me.
What movie is that?
Scooby-Doo 2.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, I forgot about it. Yeah.
In like the latex suit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And she's like, "Who's your mommy?" And you're like,
"Oh my god." Dude, it was in that moment that if Velma were real, I would absolutely donate to her OnlyFans.
Yeah, me too at this point.
I've had my face buried in my hands this whole time because the second you said geek-to-sheek, it's like, I don't know what it is with Scooby-Doo and me. Someone could just say anything tangentially related to Scooby-Doo and my brain fucking hardwires to a Scooby-Doo.
I love Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah. I don't want to entertain this tangent too much, but like Velma over Daphne, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I'm sorry.
No, you'd pick Daphne?
I'm gonna go with Daphne for the second guilty pleasure of the dumb hot girl. There's always one.
Oh, okay. We can elaborate more on that later. Yeah, we can elaborate more on that later. But yeah,
that wasn't even in the list. But now that we're talking about it, I'm like, holy yeah, I can think of quite a few.
I don't know,
with the geek-to-sheek too, I find that, like, kind of to take this out of even just, like, movies and literature and reality TV, but that's, like, a narrative you see all the time. Even when you're talking to your friend and, like, they just went through a breakup and they're like, I'm gonna go get my revenge bod. It's, like, it's something that's so integrated into our culture as just, like, a normal thing.
Yeah, well, it's because of those movies, right?
Yeah, and you have like such a soft spot for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's always like, after a bad breakup, it's like I'm going to get stupid hot afterwards. Or there's that expectation, like, or not expectation, but like there's always that thing where it's like, oh man, I'd been fucked over so many times. Now I'm going to like, now I'm going to get so unbelievably hot that the second my ex sees me, it's gonna be over. They're gonna be
And you
like,
just
damn.
know, you're like, no, in your head, you're just like, I know that I need to root for them to just like psychologically grow up and like realize they're enough. But you gotta love it. You gotta love the physical glow up.
Yeah. It's such a it's such a trope that like pretty much I think all of us grew up with.
Yeah,
Like-
well, the 2000s, I mean,
Thousands, totally.
Yeah.
yeah.
There weren't really any other kind of stories like, at the time.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, that's why Scooby-Doo was such a hit.
Oh man. Maybe that's another story that we could potentially do for a podcast episode. Just gush about the James Gunn movies.
Literally.
The incredible.
All right. So those were our first set of picks. So let's round it back up to me and introduce the second one. So my second one is I've grown such an affinity to enemies to lovers recently that it hurts me so fucking much, because enemies to lovers by any stretch of the imagination, especially in YA, is such a garbage trope. It is everywhere. Like, it is so common in almost every single YA story that I've read. Like, in the Throne of Glass books, which, you know, Gabe, you're familiar with through Alex and I. Like,
Oh yeah.
Rowan and Aelin are enemies to lovers. Manon and Dorian are enemies to lovers. Elide and Lorcan are enemies to lovers. I think at some point maybe even Dorian and Fenris were enemies to lovers, but that's too much. I don't want to say anything. But like in A Court of Thorns and Roses, at some point Feyre and Rhys were enemies to lovers. It's funny because Tamlin and Feyre were lovers to enemies, but that's a whole other thing. But like in the Shatter Me books by Tahara Mafi, Warner and Juliet are enemies to lovers. I don't want to say in Harry Potter that Hermione and Ron were from enemies to lovers, because they were essentially friends from the beginning, but like they had banter, so I'm qualifying it. In the Cruel Prince books, Jude and Cardan were enemies to lovers. What is it in Avatar? It's not an official ship, but you know, a lot of people have imagined Zuko and Katara being enemies to lovers. Like, it is everywhere. It is so common in storytelling nowadays. I think maybe that's the big trope. Everyone is imagining two people hating each other in the beginning. Like, they are such polar opposites, but then there's that one critical moment that changes everything. And suddenly they go from hating, like looking at each other dead in the eyes, wanting to kill each other, to fucking. And
Yes, the classic.
yeah, like, it's not even hate fucking either. It's like romantic fucking, and that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, like, it's like,
Well,
yeah,
it comes back to that bad guy trope that we have. They kind of go hand in hand, where you hate them at the start and I don't know, you just fall in love. It's the smoldering look.
I guess, yeah. Like, it's from the YA that I've been reading, typically a lot of the enemies to lovers thing would obviously start as enemies, and it would go after the most pivot, like when it comes to that one moment where suddenly everything changes. It's kind of weird because I have a mixed bag when it comes to those things. It could either be done pretty well or it could be done pretty poorly. So Alex and I have talked about this in a previous episode, but basically, I think we did, but like, anyway, so Rowan and Aelin's relationship, spoilers for the Throne of Glass books, by the way, but things start to change for Rowan and Aelin, who essentially hated each other when Rowan finds out about Aelin's scars on her back, and that's suddenly where, you know, he starts to be a little bit more comforting and shows off. He essentially just becomes a lot more softer towards her, and then suddenly he's just super loyal to Aelin for the rest of the books, which is sweet. The one enemies to lovers thing that I didn't really kind of appreciate, though, was Manon and Dorian's relationship, because they natural. I don't want to say naturally, but like they started off originally as kind of allies, but essentially they were kind of at odds because of Dorian's place at the timing of the book. So essentially, in a way, it was kind of enemies to lovers. And maybe I'm just going on a stretch, but like that one I think wasn't done nearly well enough, right? And I can speak for the Shatter Me books too. They had, or the main character Juliet had a enemies to lovers thing with the character Warner. That one was done fairly well. I think it came a little bit too suddenly as soon as the second book was introduced, but I mean, if it had all happened within the first book, I would have been a lot more annoyed. And I think that's just specifically with YA. Like, I'm sure, to pose the question to you guys, and as I replied to Alex in our Discord, like, what are some familiar enemies to lovers things that you guys have talked about, or what are some like familiar enemies to lovers relationships that you guys can think of?
I mean, the most obvious is Catwoman.
Oh yeah, Batman,
Right.
Catwoman. Yeah,
That one's awesome.
That's the classic.
mm-hmm.
And what's that one with Adam Sandler? Blended, I think. Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
That's
50
so
First Dates.
obscure. I haven't thought about that in so long.
I know, yeah. That when you said Catwoman, I don't know, just triggered Adam Sandler for me for no apparent reason.
Hey, Batman, it's me, Catwoman. I'm here to smuggle some jewels.
Classic.
Oh my god. Georgia, do you have a enemies to lovers trope that you kind of...
You know what? I can't think of any.
Okay.
March of the Penguins, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, March of the Penguins.
March of the Penguins.
They have their, their little quarrels, and then they nest up, and they're all good.
What would the enemy be? The ice?
Yeah, and
Morgan Freeman.
The penguins, you got to be territorial deep in the south.
Gabe said Morgan Freeman. I agree with that. You just see like the penguins just trying to vibe, and then they just have to deal with the booming voice of Morgan Freeman waking them up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know how well this is gonna work over the microphone, but I'm gonna play a video from a TikToker, Andy Miranda, who explains enemies to lovers perfectly.
So the reason why I love enemies to lovers so much is because it has tension, it has drama, it's entertaining, it gives way for the characters to grow with each other. It's honestly genius. Or maybe it's because they give you hope that one day someone might actually love you, even though you're an angry, argumentative bitch to everyone you meet. And you secretly hope that someone might actually grow to love you in spite of all of your flaws. Your many flaws.
Mm-hmm.
I dislike you. I'm you. Precisely.
Shout out to Andy Miranda, by the way. But yeah, she explains it perfectly. I think maybe
psychological advice.
Yeah, I think maybe that's why I love enemies to lovers so much. Maybe there's something internally wrong with me.
I can't think of any like enemies to lovers examples that I recently really loved, but I can definitely think of some of the reverse.
Yeah.
That I recently really liked, lovers to enemies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Or like
that's kind of like in Heather's, they're lovers, and then over time she,
Alex, you missed it. I was talking about Rowan and Aylin's enemies to lovers relationship. If you have something to say on that. I
didn't grab my headphones, so
That's
you're gonna
okay.
have to deal with my shitty audio for this.
It's fine.
Unpopular opinion, I don't like Rowan and Aylin together.
Okay. Okay, that's a whole other tangent. Let's not go down that road yet. But yeah.
But I am a fan of enemies to lovers if it's well done.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, that's just it. Is if it's well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when it's like the best guilty pleasure.
Yeah, then it's suddenly like, oh, this is actually a pleasure. I don't feel bad for hating that, or I don't feel bad for liking this when it's well done.
Tricks you into thinking it's not a guilty pleasure.
Yeah. I think okay, so I'll wrap up in a second, but like, yeah, enemies to lovers. I think that's the big YA trope right now, and feel free to disagree with me, guys, but yeah, like it's certainly the one that is taking up so much of the current like young adult world, at least, like that I think, like, we've talked about the Hunger Games era before and how there were a lot of tropes associated with that. I think with this current one, or I think with this current pattern of YA, enemies to lovers is, in my opinion at least, the most predominant one. It's certainly the one that isn't going away anytime soon, but
I would agree.
yeah. Okay, Gabe, what would your second one be?
My second is another this is in like other media that isn't shonen, but it's a very prominent trope, especially for protagonists in shonen, which is the crouching moron, hidden badass trope. It's
just say Saitama from One Punch Man. I get it.
Saitama wasn't actually who I was thinking of, but that's a really good example. Yeah, I'm just a bumbling idiot who just possesses either like an absurd amount of skill or power just buried beneath it. I fucking love that shit. I think that shit is so good every time it happens. And it's such a tired. I would call that as a guilty pleasure for me, because it's so tired in terms of like shonen anime. Like literally every single shonen protagonist is like a fucking is a dumbass with an absurd amount of power. Like the big three, like Luffy, Goku, Naruto, they're all idiots, but they're all idiots with like this extreme power.
Yeah.
Those aren't the ones I'm going to talk about though, because those are like, they're fine, but they're not the ones who I really like. The ones who I really like are the characters who are like, who are kind of, who really come out of nowhere with it, because that's the shit that really gets me. It's not the protagonists, it's like the side characters who whip that shit out. Like Master Roshi in Dragon Ball, when he fucking busts out his he's like this, for anyone who hasn't watched Dragon Ball, first of all, what are you doing? Come on, man. But so for anyone who hasn't watched Dragon Ball, Master Roshi is like this tiny little like old man who he spends the whole series training Goku in martial arts, and he's so small, but then he'll just sometimes whip out this he'll just turn buff out of nowhere and whip out this extreme skill with martial arts and just turn into a giant man. Here, I'll send some pictures of him for comparison. He's like here like we got tiny man. And then
okay, hold on.
Beef Boy.
Yeah, so there's Tiny Man right there. Yeah, shit, look at that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I know we said we wouldn't scream about Avatar, but Iroh is another
I love
fantastic example of this.
Yeah, 100%.
He's another character where it really just comes the fuck out of nowhere. I don't remember what the exact point is where like Iroh starts to bust out his moves, but for most of the series he's like Iroh. He's like Roshi. He's like a kindly old man. He's a nice old guy. And then I think it's close to the end of season 2. He's like, you want to know why they call me the Dragon of the West? And he just whips out this crazy fire breathing technique, which, to my knowledge, had not been seen in the series up to that point. He just whips out this completely unheard of ability.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. It's great.
Yeah. See, like on anime too, I was thinking about Haikyuu, and specifically the I guess main characters, Hinata and Kageyama. On their own, they're I don't want to say they're bumbling idiots, but like they certainly have a lot of banter with each other. They're pretty goofy, especially with their teammates. But like when they get in the zone, they are fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Like they are so powerful as a duo. Like they complement each other so well, and that's what makes their relationship so good. But at the same time, it's like this shit almost really comes out of nowhere. Wait, am I? I just had a thought. Is Hinata and Kageyama enemies to lovers too, or am I just going fucking insane?
Jesus.
I'm so stupid.
I've unfortunately never watched Haikyuu, so I would not know if that's does Haikyuu get gay? I'm unaware.
No, Haikyuu's
I'm hitherto unaware.
with the
If it
female
doesn't get gay,
manager.
then-
Yeah, with the female manager, it stays relatively straight, but like that isn't stopping the
Okay.
fandom.
Well, that's just disappointing in a whole other way.
Yeah. What else?
I didn't want to talk about this character. I mean, I did want to talk about this character during my tournament arc thing, because it sort of happens at the same time. But one of my favorite like episodes of a tournament arc was the Gaara versus Rock Lee episode in Naruto, and I saved that for this because I think this is a better place to talk about Rock Lee. Rock Lee is another, I think, great example of this. He's like a wimpy comic relief guy. He shows up. He's like he runs away from fights. He has a hilarious design that just looks so unintimidating. He has a bowl cut and like huge goofy eyes. Hang on, I'll send a picture of him. He's such a clown. But then in Naruto's one of Naruto's tournament arcs, he's fighting against what is essentially a serial killer. And this whole time he's been training under this master guy, and this master guy has had him wearing like training weights. This is I'm not going to get into the taking off the weights trope, but he basically takes off his training weights and busts out this incredible lightning speed. Like it's I can't even put it into words. It's one of the dopest moments I've ever seen in an anime, when this total wimp dork idiot wedgie loser fuckboy just busts out this almost narrative breaking ability. It's great that it's honestly a point in Naruto's favor that he's not in the show as much anymore, because it's ridiculously OP how fast he is without the weights on.
Yeah.
And then of course he has to put the weights back on, and then like it gets a little tired later on when every time they're in trouble he takes off the weights, but like that first time, man, that's some good shit.
Yeah. Okay, Georgia, how about you? What would your second trope, or what would your second guilty pleasure be?
Okay, so I'll completely switch gears here. Sorry, y'all, but I'm gonna go all white girl on this and say Forrest Gump, because he starts out as just like you think, oh, he's just a dumb guy, like he's just sort of a simpleton, from the southern United States. And he just came from, small town with his mama. And then he turns into like this guy who just happens to go on all these adventures, and he's lived to tell the tale. And like you think, oh, he's not dumb. Like everybody calls him dumb, but he's never been dumb. Like he's just been naive, maybe. Like the guy is naive to a fault. Like, he's in the middle of the Vietnam War, and he goes back to save, like, 5 other men, and there's helicopters, like, blowing the shit up out of a jungle, and, he's not one to, like, get out of the way and, fend for himself. He, like, goes the heck back in there, and, he has to go and get Lieutenant Dan and bring him out alive, right?
Yeah.
And so in that way, you could say, the guy is super heroic, and maybe in sort of a naive, like uninhibited way, where it's not that he doesn't understand the danger. It's just like
He's
he's
perceiving
gotta
it differently.
Yeah, he's got to do it because, he sees it as those people are part of his tribe.
Yeah.
I don't think I think what makes that movie so profound is that, in my experience anyway, I don't think I've ever seen another character like Forrest Gump. And maybe that's just like the magic of Tom Hanks, is that he can play so many characters. And, they always have this sort of like deeper than you ever thought possible
Yeah.
sort of experience. Like, it's almost like maybe a fatherly character or a fatherly figure who, they've gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm thinking of Captain Phillips now, like Tom Hanks and Captain Phillips. He's gone through it, and, he emerges in this state of like PTSD, and
Okay.
like he's an amazing actor, like needless to say. So yeah,
So
I don't know. Have you guys ever seen like a similar character to Forrest Gump, or?
See, what I was gonna, I guess, try to put a name on this one specifically. Like, you were describing Forrest Gump as a naive character who has a lot of like, who still has a lot of like heart to him, and I was thinking like, I guess just like a naive character, if that makes any sense. Like naive. I guess a naive character is probably the best way that I can personally put it, because a character, as you've described, is they're kind of like stuck in their own ways, but at the same time there's still enough about them to love.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
They're lovable. They're lovable characters.
See, I was thinking of Truman from The Truman Show.
Okay.
Yeah, because he, in his own way, like, for people who don't know what The Truman Show is, again, to quote Gabe, what are you doing? But Truman is a character that is kind of secluded, and is the main focus of a TV show. And throughout his entire life, he's believed that everything around him is his reality, but then suddenly it's like, oh shit, no, it's not. And he's lived that entire life completely, I guess, naively. That's not a word, but like, he's been naive about his life he's been naive his whole life. And once he starts discovering things, I guess it's like that naive character's journey. I think maybe that's what you're trying to get at, Georgia, or at least maybe that's what I can put a name to it.
Like so in the Truman Show, I can't really remember what's like the reaction upon discovering this new reality?
I remember, like, throughout the movie, it paces itself so that he's getting more and more confused, and then when eventually he does find out, it's a state of like, shit, all right, my life isn't exactly the way I thought it was, but maybe
like disappointed in a way.
I don't want to say maybe. I think he's more. I think he's more like, holy shit, I didn't realize that this was all fake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like the rug pulled out from under them.
Yeah, like, and that's the whole thing with naivety too, right? It's like, you thought you knew something, but really there's all of this out there, right?
Right. I feel like with Forrest Gump, it was a little different. It wasn't like the rug pulling out from under him. It was kind of like, oh, here's another thing that I've got to figure out. Like, it wasn't really a shock. It was just like, okay, a new obstacle.
Yeah. So I guess as a guilty pleasure, for one thing, I guess we could just say Forrest Gump, but like, for another thing, I think in terms of like nailing it, I would definitely, or I guess in terms of like putting a timestamp on it, basically, I think, the naive trope is definitely, I think, what I can kind of say for this.
Like, dumb and lovable.
Yeah. Yeah. I second that. I love dumb and lovable characters so much. Like, I know it's obscure, but Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron is my favorite dumbass. Cosmo is my favorite dumbass from the Fairly Odd Parents. SpongeBob Patrick is a very lovable dumb. Yeah, he's a very lovable dumb fuck. There's so many, like, And the thing is too, like I've gotten to the point where I know obviously a lot better than these characters, so like I don't know why I'm still laughing at like fart jokes and shit, but like man, it just appeases the inner boy in me. It's just like it's always so funny to watch these things because it's like it's so thing. It's like you just want to give them a pat on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you guys? You guys have any lovable, naive idiots?
No, I think Forrest Gump is like the classic for me.
That's fair. Gabe, how about you in any anime? Is there a lovable idiot?
Oh. I think there's a lot that I could think of. God, I think the most obvious, the classic, would be Joseph Joestar from JoJo.
Mm.
I don't even want to call him a crouching moron hidden badass. He's pretty much a badass from the get go, but like other than that, he's such a lovable idiot. He's so dumb. I love him so much. He's the original himbo. Are we classifying himbos in this category here?
I think
We're
yeah,
not-
himbos. I think himbos
Okay.
would probably fit the definition.
Because I don't want to make the mistake of calling Forrest Gump a himbo. That's because that's not right. But my boy Joseph is definitely a himbo. I don't want to call him dumb because a lot of what JoJo is about is how good of a strategist he is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more his flagrant disregard for etiquette and that sort of thing that makes him such a lovable idiot. Like this is a anime fight protagonist in a fighting anime who in the very first episode, right as like one of the villains is reeling up for a big showdown with him, he just fucking pulls out a gun and shoots him. It's so anticlimactic and hilarious, and it's like I can't call him an idiot for that because that's objectively the smart choice, but it's just so flagrantly in disregard of, I guess, etiquette that I can't help but call him an idiot for it.
Yeah.
And I love him. He's great.
Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna add into this on a completely unrelatable, lovable dummy, and it's Joey from Friends.
Oh, fair.
Fair.
But he's not like dumb. He's just like a goofy, cute guy.
Nah, he can be pretty dumb.
Joey's dumb.
Yeah, he's pretty.
Yeah, I'm like, that's
He's
the lovable
pretty
coming
stupid.
into you, Georgia.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Or like George from Seinfeld. But he's not
Oh, God.
explosive.
How ironic is it that like, and I'm gonna shit on this series for like just a good minute, but like, how ironic is it that like, no, how ironic is it that for a whole team or for like a whole apartment's worth of genius level people, I hate everyone in the Big Bang Theory.
Oh my god.
I think maybe that's just.
I didn't watch the rest.
Yeah, I think maybe that's just
some
with.
season.
Yeah, maybe it's just with time, but like, yeah, I've really like the humor in the Big Bang Theory is really like aged for me.
I don't think I ever liked it. I may have liked it when I was like in middle school or something, but
yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
me.
Like that's where I'm coming from. Like, because I'm thinking like, you know, obviously they're all really smart, but in their own ways they're all completely stupid.
Well, it's not like I think it's the opposite thing. I think it's sort of like the opposite of the appeal because like with a character like Forrest Gump or JoJo or Truman, like they're outwardly dumb and they're very obviously dumb. Like they might not be like very knowledgeable people or traditionally intelligent, but like the way they carry themselves and act is like you can tell they're intelligent people.
Mhm.
But I think with the Big Bang Theory, the opposite thing is happening, where it's like they're these smart people who are just so emotionally and socially unintelligent. And like I get the ideas they're supposed to be socially awkward, but like so much of that show is not is played like unironically, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like a lot of their very negative, very obviously negative behaviors are sort of played up. Like the creators are like, oh yeah, no, this is a good thing, and this we can have a good time with this because they're smart guys, you know. And that's I really hate shows with that attitude. I really hate anything with that attitude.
All right. Well, I think we can entertain that tangent in a bit, but let's get to Alex. Please don't. She typed in the she typed in the chat
The curse
Sherlock.
words.
Yeah, she typed Sherlock. Please. I'm still holding on to my love for that show.
I don't want to take up too much of the time of the podcast, so I'm going to save until after the podcast to really let her rip about Sherlock.
All right. Okay, Maddie, how about you?
I think my next one would be the crazy girlfriend. And like, I mean the completely psychotic ones that like they want to kill their ex-boyfriend / current boyfriend because they're so unwell. And actually, I've been thinking about Maeve's writing recently. Like this year in our class, she's taken a turn to that genre. And right now, I'm going to say that her writing is my guilty pleasure because I just love it, where it's so creepy and like the obsession is there and they mask it in this disgusting like love. And oh, I just love it. It's so good. It just feeds me, I think.
You would love Tsunderes then.
I was gonna say, Dean, when you were talking about Tsunderes earlier, I was like, man, don't even get me fucking started on yanderes. But now we're in that territory, boy.
Yeah, Tsunderes and yanderes. Maddie, those.
Yeah.
If you're into that shit right now, then like yeah, definitely
you should watch anime.
I've never watched anime, but I'm gonna have to start after this conversation.
Oh
I
man,
think the closest thing I've ever come is "Do Not Kill Me, Just Hear Me Out Here." There's an episode of Gravity Falls where this game in the computer falls in love with Zeus, who is also a dumb, lovable character. And she goes like absolutely psychotic. It's just this like anime, like fall in love video game. And she like follows him through technology and like tries to kill him kind of because she's so obsessed with him. That's like the closest run-in I've ever come to anime. So shoot me now if you guys want.
Yeah. Well,
listen, I will never shoot someone for not having watched a lot of anime because it's a great chance for me to just like whip out my recommendations list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I'm just
go
saying,
ahead.
like if you love that as a guilty pleasure, oh man, anime has so much in store for you, because they really take it up to like, I think almost like cringy extremes. But if you can stomach it, then it's fantastic.
I'll definitely have to check it out because it's so good. And I don't know what it is. It makes me sound kind of crazy, but I just can't help it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think since we have been talking about anime, I kind of want to do a thing where we compare like the crazy Western, like the crazy like girlfriend in Western media and you know, the tsundere yandere in Eastern, typically in anime. Because
are we calling tsundere like crazy?
I mean, we can just say yanderes then. But
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so basically like when I think of a crazy girlfriend in Western media, there's not one that I can really point to, but like I kind of get it. It's like
You can How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. That's like the
true.
classic Western psycho girlfriend.
Yeah, so like they're very, you know, they're very possessive, they're very emotional. Or at least, you know, I don't mean to like speak for everything, but like yeah, they're often I guess they're often like in rom-coms that I'm familiar with, they're often the ones that the male love interest settles for. That eventually, you know, when the male love interest is like, yeah, no, never mind, and then goes for the female love interest, then, you know, the crazy one goes up in flames basically, and
Mhm.
like they're like sending crazy voicemails, they're like, you know, tearing up at the sight of like everything, and it's like super thing. It's, I guess, on a real world level that is just dumb, but in a storytelling perspective, yeah, it's very obvious. Like they're very, like I had said, they're already very possessive, so like you can see them like holding, you know, holding the arm rather than just the hands. They're like clearly showing to, you know, the female love interest or everyone around them basically that, you know, they're like the boyfriend is hers and is trying to lock down that person, right? And compared to Western media, or compared to Eastern media, specifically in anime, there's the yandere, who is, oh, it takes everything up to like an extreme, because they will quite literally kill other people.
Oh yeah.
Just, yeah, and because it's 2D, everyone's just kind of rolling with it, right? But like it follows everything that I had already said. So like they're possessive times 10, they're controlling times 10, they're very self-sabotaging times 20, right?
Mhm.
Like they brandish weapons, sometimes complete outlandish weapons like rocket launchers and shit, from their back pocket just to kill everyone else in the way. And
Mhm.
you know, it's, there's still some kind of charm with that, because for people who, I guess for people who know better, it's kind of like gratifying watching these people like self-destruct, because then it's like, aha, you bitch.
Totally. Like you want to see them get hurt. You don't know why, but you just do.
Yeah, it's like, you weren't good for him anyway or something. It's like that kind of shit. But
Well, I think that's kind of like one of the first issues that you solve in yourself, or like you see a little bit of that in yourself, and
yeah,
you're like, haha, that was me when I was, 13, or when I was, I got over that. I'm not psycho like that.
yeah, like when you get into a
Mhm.
relationship, like, you know, you all have, like, we've all, or I don't want to say we've all gone through like very like controlling aspects, but like, you know, there's jealousy, there's, you know, feeling like there might not be anyone else for you, so you're trying to lock them down as much as possible, right? And
Mhm.
like over time, a lot of what we felt has been exaggerated in movies, so I think maybe that's why it's kind of weird, like for me at least, and I can't speak for you, Maddie, but like for me, whenever I see like a crazy psycho girlfriend self-destruct, I'm like, man, the shit that I could have gone through in life to have landed myself someone like that, I am so lucky.
Well, and it's actually funny you say that, Dean, because I was just listening. So I went through a bit of an emo phase when I was 15, and I got seriously invested in like Pierce the Veil and Bring Me the Horizon
Dude, can
and
we please have a
Moon
conversation
Music.
on that? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to
And
have a conversation with like another scene kid, even though I wasn't really a scene kid, but anyway.
I'm totally there for you. So I was listening to Yumi at 6 the other day when I was
Hey.
getting ready, and their one song, No One Does It Better, I was sitting there listening to it, and it was, she packed her bags, and like when he woke up, she was gone, all her stuff was gone. And I was like, oh my God, growing up, I thought I would have to deal with that so much more in my real life than what I actually do.
Mhm.
And it's just funny because it's such a common portrayal of women, but I find that it's just not that common in real life.
Yeah.
I mean, to some degree, I mean, there's always that crazy behavior, but
Mhm.
like I
I
said, I thought I'd have to deal with people up and leaving in the middle of the night and moving out their couch and shit at 2 a.m. while I was asleep.
Yeah. I think maybe that's another issue that I have with that trope in general. And even though like I can have some kind of enjoyment with it, as as a thing overall, like I really don't think that trope should exist anymore, because
Mhm.
it's almost always the woman in that position.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, you know, it's always, I think it's just affected like a lot of what people think about in terms of relationships. Like it's always like the woman being the crazy one, right? When, you know, men exist. But yeah, like I think,
That character still exists because, well, I mean, they're female directed. You know,
Are they?
sometimes I think so. I feel like female to female, you know what it's like to be the one who's overthinking and be the quiet one and not like knowing when or how to engage.
Yeah.
Sort of. Kind of like, I'm not saying that females are more awkward, but it's kind of like when two guys are like having a real like booming conversation. It's, it can be kind of weird to, find a place to jump in. And that's not to say that it's not an attribute of being psycho, but it's like an overthinking attribute,
Mm-hmm.
That,
Yeah. And I think before I think before we kind of go too far into it, I'm just thinking like it is like for Maddie, for you it is a guilty pleasure. For me though, I've already expressed how I felt on it, and like I don't know how everyone else thinks on it, but like it's definitely a trope that like while it is fun and while it can be fun, it's just it's one of those ones that is bordering on uncomfortable if done wrong.
Yeah,
That suddenly
and
kind of takes the enjoyment out of me.
It I find that, and I should clarify for the guilty pleasure behalf, it's very early 2000s for me.
Yeah.
And because I find that now when it's done, and actually I think that it's being portrayed with men a little bit more now than it is with women, but it's definitely the early 2000s for me that it's just goofy, silly, totally like it's ironic and it's meant to be sarcastic.
Yeah.
And
like when you consider it in context, I think it's a lot more palatable.
Yeah, I agree that like as society too like moves forward, it does need to disappear in our modern day contemporary social media and literary resources.
Yeah. And I know like sorry, Georgia, go ahead.
It just needs to dissipate.
Yeah. I didn't mean for this conversation to go that way actually. Like this is supposed to be just, joking about tropes and, guilty pleasures and whatever, but yeah, just social commentary. Don't ever think that the InkGuild doesn't pay attention to what everyone's fucking doing.
It's really crazy to me that like when we're talking about these tropes though, to see how integrated and normalized they are in society and still today. Like even when we were talking about the geek-to-sheek and you had made that comment, Dean, about well, it's so prevalent in society because of the trope. That's such a good point with all of these, like for Georgia's the bad guy, you want to fix the bad guy and you want the bad guy to fall in love with you. And that's just because of these stupid tropes. And so it is really interesting that the conversation has kind of taken that turn.
Yeah.
I think it's good to acknowledge for sure.
Well, that happens regularly here at the InkGuild Podcast. So if you enjoy them, make sure you're listening to all of them. It's just, oh man. Okay. So I'm thinking of taking this in one of two ways. So we can either start wrapping up, or because Alex is here with us, and if she's cool with it, she can speak up on a trope that she might have thought of. So actually, yeah, let's do that. Alex, if you're here, like, is there a trope or is there a guilty pleasure that you have? Like,
I think the only thing that I can really think of off the top of my head is my guilty pleasure is whatever the fuck Riverdale is doing.
Can I just say the CW is a guilty pleasure?
CW is a nightmare.
I mean,
okay, all right, I know. Okay,
but Riverdale in particular is a train wreck that I can't look away from.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not normal. I'm not like other kids.
That's not how
this hat,
Gabe.
Do you see my hat? Who does that?
I mean, that's maybe not how the quote goes, but it's perfect.
In case
Okay,
you
I know
haven't
what.
noticed,
Yeah, I know
I'm
what we're gonna do
weird.
later.
I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in.
Yeah,
and I don't want
That's right.
to
Yeah.
fit in. Have you ever seen me without this stupid hat on? That's weird.
Oh
That
man.
scene, literally, I had to pause the TV and just like stand up and take a breath because I was
Yeah.
like, I have such bad secondhand embarrassment right now. I'm pretty sure I said that in grade 7. Like,
Oh my god. No, Maddie.
It's
ugh.
there's so many times in Riverdale where one of the characters will say something that's supposed to be serious, and I have to pause the show to like laugh for like 10 minutes because I can't believe that just happened.
Oh
Like,
man.
That show is
there's-
fucking hysterical.
There's that scene in, I think it's in season 3 during the underground prison fight club arc.
That's a fucking
Where-
thing.
Tournament arc!
That's
We got a
irrelevant.
baby!
Hell yeah.
Anyway, Archie's in the secret underground prison fight club, and Veronica shows up. She's like in this terrible disguise and like a blonde wig and sunglasses. And Archie is brought out into like the ring, and he has like a bag over his head, and he's shirtless. And Veronica like lowers her sunglasses and goes, "I'd know those abs anywhere."
It's like, that is horrid.
There's this one I don't remember where it's from, but it's like the bad bitch of like the school is like, why are you wearing red? I'm the one who wears red.
What?
Oh my
That's
god.
I'm pretty sure that's from season 4. Cheryl is the best character on the show, by the way. She's my
I am
favorite
one
character. There's
weird
no
red.
competition. What?
Green.
She's the only good character on the show.
Oh my god. Okay.
Every character is the good character on that show.
No,
Yeah.
everyone else is terrible.
The show is a masterpiece of literature and writing.
Yeah.
Alex, I'm sorry that you're just not a Rick and Morty level genius enough like me to understand the true intellectual pursuit of Riverdale.
Oh man. Okay.
So that's my guilty pleasure is whatever the fuck Riverdale is doing.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. Look. So before we get too off track, let's start wrapping up for tonight. So I guess thanks everyone for listening in. It has been a very chaotic episode, as it always has been and probably always will be when your podcast is comedic and you're all university students on the brink of death when you don't know and you don't know what you're doing. But anyway, again, thanks for listening in, everyone. You can follow all of us in our respective social media below, both InkGuild related and individually. Keep an eye out for other projects that we're going to be doing soon. As this is episode 19, so season 2 of the podcast will be wrapping up fairly soon. In terms of that, however, we still got a couple more episodes on the way, so keep an eye out for those. And so Georgia and Madi, we typically like doing sign-offs on the thing, so like little things or like smaller discussions at the end of every episode. And because Alex brought up Riverdale, how about we each go and explain one? Because we're talking about guilty pleasures, let's each talk about a CW show that we have a very guilty pleasure for.
Okay.
So Alex mentioned Riverdale, and I don't know if she wants to elaborate on it more, but for me, mine is probably The Flash. I have when it first premiered, I had a legitimate love for that show. And I'm serious. Like the first 2 seasons of that show were pretty good. They had a good villain. The story arc wasn't too campy. Grant Gustin as Barry Allen works pretty well. and like everything was just working out, and then suddenly when it started going to like the hammy territory, I stopped watching. But when I watch everything again, oh, it's so bad. It's so shit. But I can't help but look away sometimes because it's like watching a dumpster fire. Because I don't know where the hell they've taken it. And I think that's just what happened with like most of the Arrowverse shows. But like, yeah, they had really good seasons, and then suddenly when everything went to hell, I just couldn't look away. Like the writing went up, went up to God knows where.
Went up in flames?
Hmm?
Went up in flames?
Yeah, went up in flames, yeah. I don't know why it took me so long to say that, but yeah, like the writing went up in flames. Characters were being introduced and killed off so randomly. The CGI effects are so fucking terrible, but I can't look away. And
The Flash is also the like most like painfully straight show.
Oh,
in
so straight.
The Arrowverse. It's like it's yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm on the same page for the Flash.
Okay, Gabe, how about you? Is there a CW show that you have a guilty affinity for?
Yes. I actually looked up CW shows because I was like, I don't think I've ever watched one, and then one came up that I have watched. It is not Supernatural, but the Supernatural anime series.
Oh my god, dude, that unlocked some very deep, very cringy memories.
I forgot Supernatural's a CW show. Damn.
Oh man.
Not only is it a CW show, but they had a fucking anime that showed on a cable network.
Honestly, after season 6, I for sure knew it was a CW show. Like, man, it became very CW-esque as soon as season 6 rolled around. And that's my hot take.
I've never even watched the original Supernatural. I just like Madhouse.
Oh my god.
It's funny. That's really funny.
That's elite.
To Maddie, did you just say that's illegal?
Oh, I said elite, but honestly, illegal sounds better.
Wait, that's illegal.
I'm like, wait, Gabe, that's illegal.
It's Alex whenever I shit myself. Hey, don't do that. That's illegal.
Yeah, that is what I do.
Okay. Georgia, how about you? Is there a CW show that like
I have not seen a single CW show.
Okay, good. Maddie, how about you?
Me?
Yeah, Georgia hasn't seen one, and you shouldn't ever.
Okay.
Mine is Gossip Girl.
Oh, that's a
Fair.
CW show too, isn't it?
Fair.
Yeah, and like I just can't with Serena. Like the scene when she's like partying, but she has like a sip of alcohol, and all of a sudden she's the only like fucked up person in the room, and you're like, what is going on?
Oh, I hate
And
that
she's
trope too.
Chuck, and you're just like, "Ugh, shut up. But it's like you can't get enough.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, I forgot about Gossip Girl.
Oh, it's unreal. And like, you know what? I could do a whole podcast on just Gossip Girl because I've watched it multiple times. Actually, whenever I'm in school and life gets really, really hard, I just watch Gossip Girl because then I feel better about myself.
You just have to look at all of those people and like, man, yeah. Like you look at all the girls on Gossip Girl, it's like, yeah, fuck all of you. I'm better than you. I'm doing
No,
much better in life.
My life might feel like a dumpster fire right now, but at least it isn't a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah. Like
That's
at least
kinda
I'm
what it
not
reminds
literally
me.
setting my hair on fire.
Right? I'm like, at least I'm not begging the bad boy of a shitty TV series to fall in love with me. So that's mine.
Oh man.
and actually, my other guilty pleasure that goes along with Gossip Girls, when I used to have Visco, the amount of women that would like romanticize Gossip Girl on it, and they would like post all these like quotes from it, and they were like, "Live like Serena," or "Be
Oh,
like
ew,
Claire."
dude,
And like
that's
that was a whole other like guilty pleasure in my life. Like I was like, "Oh yes, unfollow."
to me, because I'm not familiar with Gossip Girl. That's just cringe, dude.
It's like another one is actually Sex in the City, where they like throw it up all over social media, and it's like, okay, we get it. Carrie's constantly chasing after a guy that doesn't love her, and Samantha's a sex addict, and everyone else is an alcoholic. I'm like, yes, live like the Sex in the City women.
Yeah, good job, media. You're showing a great example for women.
Right? I'm like, what a strong protagonist.
Yeah. I mean, it's not any better when you've got like Sarah J. Maas as an author.
Right.
The state of media these days.
I just shake my head. Come on, guys, do better. All right. Anyway, just this whole,
Contemplating, I'm like, yes.
this whole episode has just been like shitting on the media, even though we enjoy the occasional things that they do, but that's another thing. That's a whole other thing for another episode. Maybe we just won't ever talk about it ever again. But yeah, thanks for listening, and everybody. Everyone say goodbye because we are done.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good night, everyone. Be safe out there.